KREM 2 News begins now.
It's been a busy week for news across the inland Northwest. Let's get you caught up with the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus. Here now is a look at some of the biggest stories from this past week.
It was here at this cabin in the middle of Stevens County where Gita rescued her owner, Keith Johnson, ultimately saving his life after he rescued her 13 years ago as a puppy.
She knew I needed help and she knew what she needed to do to get it.
It was a day that started just like any other, but it would soon become a day Keith Johnson would never forget.
It occurred to me that I might die out there.
On Wednesday, September 25th, Keith woke up to the sound of his continuous glucose machine telling him his blood sugar was low. But while on the way to the fridge to get some juice, he noticed his dog Gita needed to go outside.
And I thought Gita and I would both just pee and come back inside.
But Gita had other plans.
Instead, she wanted to go off down toward the woods.
Keith got about 20 or 30 feet from his cabin when he decided to turn around and head back. That's when he suddenly felt dizzy and fell right here, breaking his hip.
I was there 6.5 hours.
Waiting for someone to help him.
I would call for help and Gita would come over. And finally she decided she needed to act on that.
Jumping into action just like Lassie would do.
I found her laying across the center lines. She just stood up and looked at me, and she looked back towards the driveway and then looked at me, and then she took off up the driveway.
Getting the attention of Deputy Colton Wright, bringing him back to help her dad.
I was immensely relieved that I'd been saved, and then I discovered that it was Gita.
When I was standing at the truck and I looked this way, I could see Keith laying here with his hand in the air, calling out for help. I ran down to Keith. I asked him, are you okay? Like, what hurts? He told me that his leg hurt. So I ran back up to my truck, got on the radio and asked for medical to respond and hung out with him here until EMS arrived.
He said, your dog's a hero. She saved your life today. And that was my first thought too.
Keith says he's grateful the world gets to see just how special Gita is. The Sheriff's Office Facebook post about Gita's heroism went viral overnight.
People are giving credit where credit is due to Gita.
While the road to recovery is still a long ways away, Keith is making good progress here at Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, with frequent visits from his best friend. Christian Garza.
There's your daddy. Oh, look at that happy tail.
KREM 2 News.
The school board discussed moving start times for all public schools along with a potential change in the calendar year which would shorten summer vacation. They are both changes that could go into effect for the 2026-2027 school year. Wednesday's school board meeting showed a change President Nikki Lockwood says has been talked about for the past year.
To make the summer break a little shorter and to provide a few more breaks during the school year. And those breaks help students who need to catch up a little bit.
A change to the school year calendar with an additional topic changing the everyday schedules of students and staff, creating later start times for students. A presentation by SPS Chief of Staff Heather Bybee relayed research she says showed later start times helping students academically in both grades and test scores.
Teens, as they get a little bit older, they do like to stay up later, so that is part of their natural, kind of progression and circadian rhythms.
Lockwood, like all members of the board, listened to Bybee present the research, emphasizing long-term discussions have to happen before the change can take effect.
Talk about what's possible, talk about where there's opportunity, and then listen to those concepts through the lens of different perspectives across the community.
Lockwood agrees. Addressing the start times and yearly calendar potentially changing aren't just a factor for students, as well as parents, teachers, and other staff with SPS.
Any change that we do at the school district has just huge ripple effects, and so we really need our community to understand the why and then how this is going to look for them.
Now, the teachers union still needs to negotiate on the matter of the calendar year change for the fall of 2026 school year. SPS says they are not making any scheduling changes as they plan next year's calendar. In studio, Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Originally, this was a competitive grant where the 27 school districts applied. However, Idaho wanted to give that resource to all, and all that funding was given to the total 27 school districts. Right behind me is one of those school districts, Lakeland Joint School District, who was an applicant. The very first school district to hire their resource officer in late September was Orofino School District. Deputy Colton Rose was chosen for the role, and he told me he was over the moon when he found out.
I'm super excited to do this. I'm not out here to criminalize any kids. I want the best for the kids, and I'm excited to be with them from when they start kindergarten up until they graduate. I'm excited to see how they grow from there.
Deputy Rose comes from the Clearwater County Sheriff's Office, and he will be working at Orofino Junior Senior High School, Orofino Elementary School, Timberland School, Cavendish, and the Youth Challenge Academy.
Be able to show them that there's more than just the badge. We're not always there when things go bad, and be able to be a positive outlook on safety.
This was all made possible by the Idaho Millennial Fund.
We have some funds from a tobacco settlement that happened a while back. And so we have a group of folks on the Millennium Fund Committee that put together ideas of how to use that settlement funding.
SROs have been in need since Idaho schools have struggled to pay for those roles.
Some of their levies have failed, meaning some of the teachers and some of their SROs were the first people to go. And those are the people doing the groundwork.
But now, 27 school districts can keep safety as a top priority.
They need this, and our schools need it for sure.
The Idaho Department of Education also told me that this funding will last up to 3 years, and they're looking for ways to further invest to hire more SROs. That way, there will be more like Deputy Rose who will provide safety on campus and inspire students. I'm right here in Rathdrum, Idaho. Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Tim Pham. Let's get back now to some of the biggest news stories from the Inland Northwest this past week.
City Council is pretty impressed by all 3 candidates, so they have a tough decision before them. I'm outside City Hall where the interviews wrapped up just this afternoon. The next steps include a candidate nomination by Coeur d'Alene's interim mayor.
Coeur d'Alene City Council has 1 vacant seat to fill. It opened up when Councilmember Woody Evers became the city's interim mayor. These 3 candidates step forward, hoping to be the city's newest council member. Kenneth Gabriel is Coeur d'Alene's recently retired fire chief.
I think what I bring that a lot of people don't is a true love of the community. And I've tried to prove that for my entire adult life.
John Austin is a semi-retired former finance director and city administrator.
It was always my intention to try to join the council and give back a little bit to the community.
And Jeff Conaway owns a local sign business.
I think I've done well because I'm fair-minded and I'm able to kind of analyze situations and get to the bottom of whatever the issue is and come up with good ideas.
In their public interviews with City Council, each candidate shared their experience and what skills they would bring to council.
I've been to probably more budget hearings than most everybody in this room, and I think I have a pretty good knowledge of what it would take to be a council member.
Well, I know it was a couple decades ago, but I did serve as your finance director and city treasurer for 9 years.
Well, I think I'm a reasonable, intelligent person that is articulate enough to read material and understand it, to hear people express their points of view.
Now, the next step is interim Mayor Woody Evers will nominate his pick for Council Seat 4. That nomination will happen at the next council meeting on October 15th. Then, a majority vote from council will confirm that nomination. That candidate will serve on council until elections next November.
Council members agree all 3 would do a great job in that council seat, adding they have the interest and time to devote to the position. We'll find out who they pick next week. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Megan Conlon has aspirations in the medical field.
I do want to go to nursing school eventually.
She's taking a step in that direction, working at the front desk at the new Post Falls ER and Hospital on South Beck Road.
I have worked at Kootenai Health in the past, but I mainly worked in a different industry, just doing management and things of that sort.
She, alongside staff of registered nurses and 14 physicians, make up about 50 staff members at the new facility, celebrating its grand opening on Tuesday.
It's unique in that we can serve people quickly because we are just an ER.
Business Development Manager Amy Bartu says the facility's been planned for the past 2 years, owned by the 14 physicians on staff, something she says is a plus.
I believe being physician-owned allows us to be more mobile, to be able to pivot when we see needs that need addressed.
The biggest being to offer another resource so facilities like Kootenai Health and Valley Hospital don't become overcrowded.
All of our healthcare facilities in this area were extremely overwhelmed. They even still are, even with our facility being built.
A facility Bartu says has already seen 390 patients since its operation began 6 weeks ago, and starting November 1st, will have outpatient imaging services such as CAT scans and ultrasounds.
We're able to serve this part of the state that's growing so rapidly, and there are so many families that live in the area, and that we can be very responsive for those families and people traveling on I-90.
More care for those who need it immediately, and more experience for Conlon, looking ahead to advance her career.
We get them all checked in, and then we keep up with them through the continuation of their care.
In Post Falls,
we just want to help people.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
You could say WSU's Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab's unofficial tagline is, "We worry so you don't have to." At least that's how Executive Director Kevin Snekvik thinks of it.
I think it trickles down to pretty much every person within the Inland Northwest, because it affects not just someone at home with their dog, but also with the food that's sitting in their refrigerator.
The inner workings of the building are highly secure, but KREM 2 News got a peek through the glass where staff and students test around 250,000 animal samples every year, more than 20,000 a month from across the country.
Part of those 20,000 cases that come in, they all basically start at this table here.
I'm standing right now in the bio-level security 1 area, but just behind these double doors is the highly sealed off level 2 laboratories. Actually, this entire area of the building is so separate, it's on an entirely different air circulation system.
You actually couldn't talk to each other in this room because the air noise was so loud.
Waddle's work began 50 years ago, but now its scientists are at the forefront of alerting local, state, even federal agencies about animal diseases and potential outbreaks.
To help safeguard our food security, our food system.
The lab helped diagnose Washington State's first case of chronic wasting. It also works with a network of animal labs to detect and track disease nationwide.
Highly pathogenic avian influenza that moved from birds, avian species, into mammals, into cows, which is unprecedented.
Waddle helped pinpoint Idaho's first case and warned of broad impacts to the nation's food supply by learning how the disease went from Texas cows to the Northwest's.
How they moved cattle through the United States actually was spreading the disease.
Waddle is the go-to for many state and federal agencies that don't have their own accredited labs. It's also training the next set of veterinarians, pathologists, and biologists.
What I feel is one of our biggest contributions is actually we get to keep this going for the next generation, have people that are well trained to man it.
To protect people and animals for decades to come.
But really the key part of it is the fact that we can play a huge role at so many different levels.
Shannon Mowdy.
So that's the part I walk home at night and feel like I've done something important.
KREM 2 News.
I'm voting Democrat.
I'm voting Republican.
These neighbors are divided by politics and a property line.
We have quite an amount of honking and 4-letter words outside of our house.
See how these neighbors are putting people over politics.
Whether we vote differently or not, we still love each other.
Stream Up with KREM Tuesday, exclusively on KREM 2+.
In 2024 so far, Washington State Patrol reports a little over 4,400 DUI arrests occurring as of September 30th of this year. Now, in response, SPD is funding 2 new officers through 2 separate grants through the Washington State Safety Traffic Commission to help lower the number and educate the public. Now, the first grant is for a full-time DUI officer. According to SPD, these officers work in the evenings specifically for DUI enforcement. The department started having full-time DUI officers on staff since 2016. Now, the second grant is funded to create a new position known as an impaired driving training coordinator. This person the position involves teaching courses on impaired driving detection, certification for SPD officers, and will also be able to educate different community groups such as first responders and schools. This officer will also be assigned to Spokane County Municipal DUI Therapeutic Court and will be available to respond to both fatal and serious injury car crashes. As far as how organizations and members of the community can get involved, you're encouraged to email Sergeant Teresa Fuller with SPD. That email is at the bottom of your screen. In the newsroom, Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Well, this is exciting news for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was told by the church's regional communications director that the temple in Spokane Valley is bursting at the seams. That's even with the most recent opening of the church's Moses Lake Temple just last year.
Coeur d'Alene Stake President Tyler Morton also told me the announcement was a complete surprise.
And when the announcement came, we all got chills. We were super excited, exchanged a couple tears. And so excited for this area.
Church leaders told KREM that the Inland Northwest is home to about 54,000 members. Between Coeur d'Alene, Lewiston, Sandpoint, and Spokane Valley alone, that's about 28,000 members. With the growth of people in the area, there has been a need for a closer temple to provide that place for faith, family, and connectedness.
A lot of the local members here have been praying and working toward this for many, many years. And so I guess I would see it as a big sign of their devotion to their Heavenly Father, where it's like, okay, we want to have one of these big buildings close to us.
Elder Hal C. Hunsaker also told me bringing a temple to Coeur d'Alene will help families and members have a larger opportunity to experience the blessings a temple provides, as well as making it easier on their commute times.
They're currently driving, there's some 2 to 3 hours from the northern and southern parts of Idaho up to the Spokane Valley, so it will shorten their commute by a little bit.
All while in the beautiful setting of Coeur d'Alene Lake, where they expect congregations to continue to grow.
The beauty of the Coeur d'Alene area, that there'll be lots of people traveling from lots of places to come and visit Coeur d'Alene and participate in the temple.
The growth for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not stop there. I was told temples in Tacoma and Vancouver, Washington are well on their way.
Elder Hunsaker told KREM 2 the Coeur d'Alene Temple will take between 2 to 3 years to build. As of now, they do not have the site location, but they are looking forward to those announcements. Reporting in the studio, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
A zip line going across Spokane Falls has been in the works as a project for years. And finally, one company got selected to be taking part in that venture, and they're expecting a functioning zip line to be opened here in the summer of 2025. It's something that's been in the works for years.
It's a single zip line where it's side by side.
CEO of Micah Moon Zip Tours out of Liberty Lake, Drew Stewart, is excited the first phase of the project is underway for a functional zip line, after their proposal for the project was selected, among others.
Spokane Skylines is the name. We're starting right here at the corner of Place of Truth Plaza, and it will go down across the river through the southern arch of the Monroe Street Bridge and land in the southeast corner of Red Band Park.
The route is an estimated 1,300 feet, and the zipline's first stage of planning is currently underway. Members of Spokane Parks and Recreation held a Riverfront Park Committee meeting on Wednesday, going over the history of the planned zipline, looking ahead into next year after proper permits are filed, and Stewart and others here from communities affected.
Upon the succession of Phase 1, Phase 2 is the construction and actual operation of the zip line.
Something Stewart says isn't costing the taxpayer a dime.
The city isn't paying for anything. It's a public-private venture, meaning that we will provide all of the construction costs, the financing, insurance, permitting.
A zipline going one way, but will provide a means of transportation so people can head back up and take a historical tour of downtown Spokane along the way.
To celebrate the fun aspects of downtown Spokane, particularly Riverfront Park. So hopefully we'll be able to go through the Red Wagon, kind of provide some transportation of guests back to the starting point.
Starting point to look at the city in both new and familiar ways.
Trying to celebrate the different cool things that happened in the past and also the present.
Stuart tells me he's currently getting ready to apply for permits to get out of Phase 1 so they can move into Phase 2 and eventually be open. In Spokane, Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus. For the KREM 2 News Weekend Review, remember, you can always watch our latest newscast and weather forecast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just click on the video in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.